Hey, everybody. Welcome to the GMI Rocket Show. I'm your host, Roman Zelchenko, former immigration attorney turned entrepreneur. I am the co founder and CEO of Laborless, an immigration platform that focuses on H-1B visa compliance, and also the founder of GMI Rocket, a digital marketing agency that is focused on the global mobility and immigration industry. And of course, which brings you the show. Um, Today's episode 141. I'm really excited. Our guest today is Olu'yomi Ojo, who is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Agora. And so Agora is a tech platform that is focused on O-1s, EB-1s, and EB-2 NIW visas. Olu'yomi is himself an EB-1 recipient, and we'll talk all about his story as somebody who is an entrepreneur from Nigeria who immigrated to the US, went through the immigration process, and like many of us entrepreneurs, going through a challenging and sometimes convoluted process, thought to himself, there's got to be a better way to do this, and has built what Agora is today. So we're going to get into the story. I'm really excited to learn about his journey and everything he's built. Before we jump in, I do want to take a pause to thank the main sponsor of this episode, 8 a.m. DocketWise. So for those in the immigration space, DocketWise is an end-to-end immigration case management platform that provides best-in-class immigration forms, customizable questionnaires in a ton of different languages, industry-leading integrations with payment companies and with payment providers, rather, with calendar apps, with everything you can imagine, even including my company, Laborless. Really great customer service. I mean, I've known the DocketWise team for many years. And really what I love about DocketWise is that they really give back, I think, to the industry quite a bit. They've got a really good blog that's super helpful, and free ebooks, a new podcast that I've been on as well, and just so much more. They support this show, and they allow for really great content to be created for the industry. So if you are in the market for an immigration case management platform for your law firm or for your in-house team, if you're a corporate, please check them out. The website is 8am.com/DocketWise, or check out the link in the show notes. And if you talk to them, tell them that you heard about them from the GMI Rocket Show. So thank you to them. And perhaps more importantly, thank you to Olu'yomi for being here. And I'm really excited to jump into your story.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good afternoon, Roman. It's good to be here. Happy to share more about my journey, about what we're building at Agora, about what it really takes to be building in the immigration industry, especially today, especially as an immigrant myself. So we sort of have a lot in common. Looking forward to sharing more and hopefully learning more from you on
Definitely.
this podcast today.
It's interesting how many founders in this industry are immigrants themselves. I mean, who went through the process. I'm an immigrant, but I was brought here when I was small by my parents. So I remember going to what was the INS office or USCIS office. And I, have some memories of that, but overall, I grew up here. So, but it's really cool to see how many people have come here as adults, went through the process, and then, as you were saying, figured out or tried to figure out a way to make the process better.
Absolutely.
By the way, I'm joining you with tea. For those who are watching live, it is January. It is winter in New York City. You and I are both sniffling, and so we are doing this for the people. We are both not feeling 100%. But we're doing this conversation for the people, for the industry. So, cheers to that. Okay, so you're from Nigeria. You grew up there. You went to school there. You started businesses there, and I'd really love to dive into that a little bit before we talk about, of course, your journey to America and everything that you've built here. So tell me a little bit about. I've never been. I really want to go. It's West Africa is on my obviously a list, and so many people.
You should go.
Oh, I will. Trust me. And I know immigration lawyers there, and I feel like I'll have a really good opportunity to learn and see what's going on. But I've never. So tell me a little bit. What was it like, kind of, growing up? What was your environment growing up in Nigeria? Are you from Lagos?
Yes, I'm originally. I originally grew up in Lagos. But like if you talk about my origin, I'm from another state called Osun State, which is also in the southwestern part of Nigeria, shares the same region with Lagos. there's absolutely no way I would talk about my story without talking about the kind of family dynamics I grew up in. I was raised by a single mother who is very, very entrepreneurial. She could sell ice to people who live in Alaska. She usually find a way around things, no matter what what the economic situation around that looks like. I grew up, born in the 80s, in the early 80s, grew up in the 90s. And this was like around the time when the military government was in power. So like my most formative years was within the military dictatorship time of Nigeria. I was born into one, grew up into one. I was 18. I was 19 when Nigeria got its first democracy. So where Nigeria got democracy once again. So you would understand that I have a very, very strong experience of what it looks like to live in a dictatorial, under a dictatorship. But during this period, even though things were a lot rough, I grew up in a family where my mom would always, find a way around things by figuring out what people want to buy and selling exactly that, what services people want to buy, what are the essential services. And so went to college with this same mindset, and I studied applied mathematics, by the way. And while I was in school, I started getting a lot of interest in graphic design, learned graphic design, trained myself, graphic design, hopping from one studio to another, just using people's computer. And by the time I left university, I got an opportunity to work as an intern in a graphic design and branding agency. Did about 16 months in that company, and I was like, I got to start my own design agency, which was very stupid at that time, because I had colleagues who were like, "You will die out there," because it made absolutely no sense to leave university, work just 1 year in the design agency. You did not study in that particular industry, then you left and you say, I'm going to start my own company. So virtually everybody told me, dude, you don't do this. But a couple of years down the line, the company had worked with some of the biggest brands within the country, worked with First Bank, which was the biggest bank at that time, worked with Honda, the car and motorcycle manufacturing company, worked with a company called Etisalat. We handled a lot of projects for these companies. And while running the design company, one of the biggest problems that we had was finding the best printing companies that would print for us, whenever we're working for our clients. So as a design agency, when you design stuff, it goes to different, media platforms. So you could have what's going online, you could have what's going on TV, you could have what's going on radio. And our biggest challenge was whatever is going on print, you're going to struggle with the vendors, right? So we had to literally do the vendor's job at some point in time. And for who I am, who love to solve problems, especially problems that I've experienced myself, I was like, you know what, we're just going to start a printing company. And that was how my first leap into technology was born. So while I was researching, building this printing company, what are the options that we could have in terms of how do we make sure that this doesn't just solve the problem for us, it solves the printing problem for a lot of other people. I realized that a lot of small businesses in Lagos, which was like the central, the capital of economics activity in the country, those small businesses also have the same problems, right? They can't print on time, they can't print at lower cost and all of that. And those thoughts gave birth to my first technology company, Printivo. What we did was we just allowed people to order prints online, right? We built a solution that typically allow people to order prints online. And if you grew up in the US, you grew up in the US, so you know Vistaprint. We built exactly what Vistaprint is doing. We built that for Africa, and we were the first company to do it in Africa. And the goal for me at that point and for the team was, we're just going to solve this problem and we're going to build an opportunity there. There was no plan to raise money. There was no plan to talk to investors. I didn't even know what an investor, a tech investor looks like. I don't know what the VC ecosystem or whatever works like. And we launched this company January 2014, and that was 11 years ago. And that week, everything went viral, because apparently a lot of people had this problem. And the orders we received were way too much that we couldn't even handle those orders. We had to start, outsourcing to other printing companies. And this company grew super fast. Eventually, I just got a DM on Twitter by someone saying, "Hey, we are a VC firm. We're looking for innovative companies in Africa to invest in, and we think what you're doing is really, really interesting. I got to talk to you. I got to talk to you guys."
Wow.
And for someone who has never ever spoken to a VC before, ever raised money before, it was like a shock for me. I was like, where do I start from? And so I remember calling friends and calling people that had already done this before and say, hey, have you gone into a meeting with an investor before? What should I be looking for? I don't know how to build a deck. What should I be? What options do I have? Those kind of conversations. Eventually, we didn't raise from that fund, but that they were like, "Oh, you guys are too early." I could remember going into the meeting, and the partner was like, when we started showing them our slides and everything, and the partner was like, "Wait a minute, you guys are less than 6 months?" I said, "Yeah, we are like less than 6 months," and it goes, "Oh, we don't do early stage. Like what we saw and what we saw customers saying about you guys, we thought you've been here for a very long time, and we don't do early stage. We're like a latter stage company. However, we know VCs that do early stage, and
that's great.
Yeah, we're going to introduce you guys to these people, and hopefully they will write you a check." And that night they did the intro, and the rest is history. Those guys wrote us a check, and from there we got into 500 startups. In the Bay Area, they did the investment. I came for the residency for some months. Lived in the Valley. Learned a lot from other entrepreneurs who were also building innovative companies as at that time. And this was 2017 January. So learned all of that, then went back to Nigeria to continue building the business. But I used to come into the US maybe once or twice a year for investor meetings and all of that. And
so let me pause you for a second there, because obviously that's such an incredible opportunity, and there's been talk about investing American venture capitalists and investing into Africa and trying to find the opportunities to do so. And obviously they found one with you. But I want to, if I can roll back time just a little bit.
Absolutely.
You studied mathematics in university. And a lot of times it sounds like you obviously grew up in an environment where your mother was very entrepreneurial. You saw what she was doing. Did she recommend, or did she kind of push you in the direction of academics to get a good stable job and to build a career, or did she kind of push you into sort of the business world? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So very, very good question. So we don't have those conversations.
Okay.
Around this is what you should do.
Okay.
However, it's one of those things that this is what you should do without anyone telling you should do it, right? So I'm the last of 5. We all studied like courses that you could get a 9 to 5 and have stable income. Remember, I said earlier that I grew up in the 90s, where we had like dictators in power, the economy was in shambles. So it's extremely important if you're middle class or lower at that point in time, you're much more focused on stability, being in industrial sectors or kind of jobs that will bring some level, that will bring stable income. So those things were like things we don't talk about, but we knew, this is exactly why I'm doing this. Interestingly, we have 3 entrepreneurs within the family today, and even though we were all thinking of 9 to 5 careers, we have 3 entrepreneurs doing amazing work today in the family. So it sort of runs in the blood, but just things we don't talk about.
I see. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And it's one thing where you think of what is the right thing to do. It's another thing of what you see working, and you obviously saw this working. So that's all. So you obviously you finished school, and I love the story of you finished school for math. Did you graduate, or did you leave early?
I actually graduated. It was tough, right? But I eventually graduated. Like in my final year, I had already started making money, and I was like, man, dude, I need to go make money quickly. But I'm just gonna push through and like just get the final this thing out of the way before going to to start a business?
So yes, so you graduated, you worked in a totally different industry than what you studied,
Yeah,
and then a year after working in a totally new industry, you decided to start your own business, which is gutsy. I mean, but that's the kind of thing that shows that you were like so driven by your vision of what can happen, and you just trusted that it would work out. I mean, obviously, right?
Yep.
And it did, and I think it's a really cool lesson for any kind of younger founders to just if you can envision some kind of future state where you're running a business and solving a problem, that vision is one of the best, I think, indicators of whether you will be successful or not. Obviously, there's a lot more to learn, and as you get into it, your vision can change, but you have to visualize what success could look like, because then that's your end point that you're working towards.
Exactly.
And I want to ask you also, so you started Printivo, Africa's first kind of Vistaprint style company. Obviously exploded in success. You found and connected to funders that were from the US. What was your experience like coming in? Because that was probably your first immigration experience, at least to America. What was that like for you? You come to America, you come into Silicon Valley, which is, the one of the hottest entrepreneurial, areas in the country for sure, but really in the whole world. What was that experience like for you in terms of the energy you felt, conversations you had? Maybe did it give you did it make you excited about continuing to grow your business and the ecosystem in Africa? Like, what are some of your thoughts?
The first one is the culture shock, right? If you grow up in Africa, you would understand that risk is something people are super careful about, right? Grow up in an environment where sometimes you get punished for even trying something new, right? So when you say, "Oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur at the age of 20," people are like, "Are you okay?" So there's just that difference between moving from Africa and coming to Silicon Valley, where everyone you would ever encounter in the Bay Area is either working on something, or they're working in a place where they are working on something really, really risky, right? And then there was zero fear of failure, right? The first day of 500 startup, Marvin Lau, who was like the lead partner at that point in time, was having a conversation with all the founders, and this was like our office hour conversations. And he goes, "Oh, some of you are going to fail. As a matter of fact, most of you are going to fail, and we know that up to certain percentage of startups are going to fail. Some of you are going to become what we call zombies. There is no exit. There is no nothing. You're just alive. The real successful startups are most likely going to be something lower than 10%. But we're doing this because we don't know which one of you this would be.
Right.
But just in case you're going to fail, I want you guys to know that you should fail honorably. Fail knowing fully well that you've tried everything. If you need to pivot, you pivoted. You've tried everything before you failed, and fail honorably, and make sure that you are good to your cohort members, because in case your startup fails, someone within your 500 startup cohort is going to hire you. And everybody started laughing. And for me, that was like, wait a minute, this guy's going to write a check into this company, and they are already talking of failure from day one. And this was like not the kind of experience we're getting in the African ecosystem at that point in time. Somebody wants to write you a check, they're going to ask for your blood. Like, they're going to ask for everything. They're going to tell you dare not fail. Like, the approach to building stuff and taking risks and failure was totally two worlds apart. One other thing I discovered was that, like, every single corner you turn to, everybody you talk to, they're either building something, they're working on something, they're taking risks, or they just failed, or they're either writing checks or taking checks, right? So everyone, you go for events, and people are gonna go, "Oh, what are you working on?" Right? That's the first thing people ask. "So what are you working on?" And that was something. I think the third one was the willingness to help, willingness to support. Right? I could, like, once you tell someone you're working on, the first thing that goes into their mind is, "Oh, how do I help this guy? I know someone who's building exactly what you're building." I was randomly in one of the conversations, and someone was like, "Oh, what are you working on?" And I was like, "Oh, we're working on Printivo for Africa and everything." And the guy goes, "Oh, I know the founder of Vistaprint. I know this person. You know what? I'm going to connect you guys." Some other time I was in a place we're looking for an API. We're looking for like an off-the-shelf solution that we could use within our system, and spoke to a guy, and it was like, "Oh, there's a company down the road that is building this stuff. Let's take a walk." And we walked into the meeting and we're like, "Oh, you know what? We're gonna give you our APIs and let's see how this goes." These are the kind of conversations that you could have in the Bay Area that you most likely won't be able to have anywhere in the world. I mean, thank God for COVID. People now do a lot of connection and businesses, without physically seeing. But like 2017, there are certain things that you can't even get done, without seeing people. And being in the Bay Area literally changed a lot of things for me and how I look at building businesses and taking risks. And our residency was about 4 months, and I was in and out, because there was still business back home. So I would go then after we finished the 500 startup accelerator program. I went back home, right? But that experience, stayed with me. And it was part of the driving point that made me decided to come back to build in the US.
I love that.
Which we will talk about eventually as we go on with the conversation.
Yeah, and it's cool because I don't even have this kind of a thing in New York, right? I mean, it's a different ecosystem. So yeah, it's cool. Like even here, it's not maybe it's because thinking about it now and in person, people are more willing to connect here versus online. It's just not as easy, maybe. Although it should be easier. You send an email or you send a DM or something. But that's really, really cool. And I remember when I first started Laborless, a lot of people were telling me, "What are you doing in New York? You should come out to San Francisco, California. This is where the startup ecosystem is, etc." I'm glad I didn't, because now there are a number of immigration tech companies based in New York City, and my network is here. But it's really cool to hear your experience, because that is special. Like it is special to hear how willing people are to help, how willing people are to take risks financially and otherwise. So that's super cool. Okay, so you've had this experience, and you got the investment, and you learned a lot from being at 500 startups. You go back to Nigeria, you're working on the business, it blows up. I mean, it becomes a major success. But obviously, as you alluded to, you eventually do move to the US. What was, it's a big decision to step down from a business that's doing well, that's getting, is growing, et cetera. So can you share a little bit about what was your thought process back then? Like, why did you step away? What were you thinking about for your future?
I think so. I think that at that point in time, there were a couple of things that happened. Between 2017 and 2021, like there was a change of that. A new government came into power. I wasn't comfortable with the environment that government had created, with the business environment that the government had created, within the system. That was the first trigger for me. But as that was ongoing, I had another business idea that I figured out, this is going to work more, if this business is built in the United States, right? And I moved to the US to build this business, right? This was basically the major driver behind my, the EB-1 petition to build a new business within the US. And one of the things I always do, which I tell every founder, is this: if you ever get to a point in your startup where you want to go build something else, right? You don't do it in the dark. You've got to talk to your investors. You've got to talk to everyone, right? So I got an idea to build another company called Cover, which was in the fintech space that allowed people to sort of track everything they own within one app. When I mean everything you own within one app, including your cars, your cryptocurrencies, your bank accounts, your physical, assets, your homes, whatever it is that you own, I bring it into one place to track it and make sure that just in case anything happens to you, the people in your life can find those things. And it was a very good idea because it was during the COVID period, a lot of things was going on. And the moment I started working on that idea, I called my co-founder and I said, "You know what? I think I want to go build something else. Do you think you're capable to, you could take up this role and run this vision? We've built this together till date, right? Can you do this? And I'm like, oh yeah, we could do this. And then I reached out to the investors that we have at that point in time. Went to have a one-on-one with everyone to say, hey, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave not because I'm not happy. I'm gonna leave because I want to go do something else. But I will still support this company. I'll stay on the board. I'll do everything. And my first check for this other company came from two of for my Printivo investors. They were like, you know what, we're gonna write you a check again. And the company was eventually, we had to shut down. It wasn't as successful as we had projected. We shut down halfway. We returned the funds back to the investors. And this was right after I moved into the US. And so I stepped down in 2021, moved in permanently a couple of months later after stepping down, and built this business up to 2024 and late 2023 actually. And we went through a lot. We realized that the opportunity wasn't what we had projected. We tried to pivot. It wasn't working. And I remember that one of those meetings again, I said, you know what, I'm just going to go sit down with our investors and let everybody knows exactly what is going on. And I this is one rule I play by, is not to leave. Like, if you're a venture-backed company, you do not leave your investors in the dark, right? When things are work, founders tend to want to share more when things are working than when things are not, right? And so for me, I'm like, I just tell investors when things are working and when they are not. It's difficult to tell your investors and your board members and your stakeholders to talk to them when things are not working, right? A part of you says, oh, make things work before you communicate, right? Ship that feature, get more customers, make more revenue before you tell. But if you create a culture of talking to your investors every month, sending investor updates, or even if it's quarterly, stay consistent with it, then people know exactly what's going on within the company, and those that could help, they can help. Those that can't, at least they stay up to date. And the moment I realized, we're going to do that, there's no going light, there's no light down the tunnel. I sat down with all our investors again, flew across the world to go meet them. Those that were available, met them in person. Flew to South Africa to meet one of our investors to say, hey, we're going to shut down this company. Went back to Lagos to do a couple of meetings, went to New York, met with our investors. We're like, you know what, we're going to shut down this company, and we still got a lot of money in the bank. Right, we've innovated, we've done that, but I don't think it's going to work at this point in time. And we did shut down the company, and we funded what was left in the bank, and stayed very transparent. My co-founder moved on to go to really, really great stuff after that. I took some months off entrepreneurship. During that period, I was helping founders figure out their EB-1 processes for free. Like, founders will come to me and say, hey, I'm trying to do my EB-1. I'm speaking to this lawyer. She's giving me a list of what to put together, but I don't even know where to start. And I'm like, oh, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. Have a standard document that you are tracking everything in. Get an assistant that can do some runs for you. This is what your letters should look like. These are the kind of people that can write letters for you. These are the kind of evidence that would explain that you qualify under this certain criterion. And I was doing all of that for free. And it was while doing all of these that the idea of maybe we should build Agora came into play, because some of these founders even come, they don't know the attorneys to work with. I'm the one saying go work with this attorney because I know they've had some experiences working with founders from Africa. I was doing all those referrals for these founders. So yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to take a quick pause here for a second, just so I could say I wanted to give a thanks to the second sponsor of this episode, which is Lex Reception. It's an older friend of the episode, and they're back as a sponsor, which I really appreciate. So Lex Reception, for those who don't know, is a legal intake, reception, and client support service. So they answer phone calls and messages in real time for immigration law firms and provide immigration law firm clients with 24/7 legal answering specialists, so that you as a law firm, you don't have to worry about missing a call from a prospect ever again. And so Lex Reception also can proactively reach out. So if you're a law firm and you have clients coming in to your law firm as prospects, they can reach out to those prospects and have them, sign up and get a consultation with your firm. So basically, Lex Reception is a receptionist service that will allow you to never miss a potential client ever again, or certainly your existing clients. And so Lex Reception, they have integrations with a number of legal platforms like Clio and Practice Panther, LawPay, and so many more, so they can fit into your current tech stack and workflow. And for GMI Rocket Show listeners, Lex Reception is offering $250 off your first month of service. So if you're interested, there's a special link in the show notes down below. And if you reach out to them, tell them that you heard about them from the GMI Rocket Show. So thank you to Lex Reception for supporting this show. Okay, Olu'yomi, back to you. So at this point, you're in the US. You came in on EB-1 to build a fintech company that, as you said, didn't necessarily work out, but that's okay. That is part of the founder's journey. I really love what you've shared about transparency with your investors and things like that. I think it's so important to be transparent. And as you said, it's way easier to be transparent when things are going great. It is not as easy to be transparent when things are not going great. And so I think it's really good advice to share for people to be aware of. So at this point, you've got your friends, your colleagues, others who are on EB-1s or thinking about EB-1s coming to you saying, hey man, how did you do this? I need some help, right? You started helping with them and you realized that there's something broken with this process, and it obviously led you to build Agora. Can you share a little bit, like, what were you thinking? I mean, okay, it's one thing to help people. It's another thing to find a business opportunity there. So what were you thinking about in terms of something is broken here and I think technology can help?
Yeah, so the first thing for me was when founders and talent would reach out and they'll say, oh, I saw that you got the EB-1 visa. Can you sort of connect me with an attorney that can help with these? And I will do the connection, right? And weeks down the line, they call back and this person is going to come back and say, the attorney thinks that I'm not qualified. And I look at this person and I'm like, you've been a company that raised money from like top tier investors. Your business is doing really something great in the space. You've built a technology that sort of would qualify as an original contribution in the field. You also won an award in the space within the Nigerian context, which is national. And your company is a distinguished company because this company has won multiple awards, is well recognized within the Nigerian context or sometimes within the African context. So I'm like, okay, maybe this attorney doesn't really know much about, the African context of your achievements. And I remember that I would say, okay, you know what, let's join the call with this person together. And I'm going on the call with this person, right? And I'll give more context. And the attorneys will say, we didn't get all this context. I think we can work with this person. And so I realized that there's a gap and a missing link between like understanding founders who have achievements from countries where there is little or next to no coverage. And that was the first thing. The second one was like documentation, right? A lot, if you come from many African countries, like success is not really documented. So people are achieving stuff, but nobody's talking about it. Or they get invited to speak in a very, very great conference, and you can't find anything about that online, right? There's no paper trail, right? So realize that for people to be able to even get this, get their visas approved, they need to find this evidence. So a lot of time, if you're going to do this in 2 or 3 years, then you've got to start working on this evidence from day one to day. And every time people call you for stuff, they're like, oh, I will need you guys to send me an actual written letter. I have seen people who spoke at conferences with over 1,000 attendees, and they were invited to speak at those conferences through WhatsApp, some through the phone, right? And you could have evidence that you spoke at the conference, but there's no evidence that shows the story behind, excuse me, just 1 second, behind how you even got to this space in the first place. So I realized that there's a lot of gap between like the evidence, the building, the cases, and all of that. And I felt, you know what, if we build a technology within this space and we build all these, processes, have the strong processes in play, we have the attorneys on one side who would work with candidates and talents and entrepreneurs and creatives, and on the other side we have these petitioners and beneficiaries. We might be up to something here, and that was what gave birth to Agora. So we do a lot of education. Give me 1 second. Just want to clear my, this flu is.
So yeah, and while you do that, we're both going through a little bit of a cold right now. So take your time. But I want to make a comment while you do that. It's really interesting, and I think what's fascinating to me about it is you're talking about an information asymmetry, but in a sense, it's asymmetry because the information kind of doesn't exist. And this idea of a paper trail is a really important one. I think sometimes people take for granted that they expect that all of the information is there. Everything's documented online. Every conference has a website, every speaker, and that's not always the case, depending on what region you're coming from. So that's really, it's a really interesting and kind of a niche, solution, but one that has broader implications. So did you initially start helping more people who are also fellow EB-1 citizens of African nations? Like, was that kind of where you started to say, look, I see the challenge here. I've been through this process. Let me help you because I know the context of, what it means to be a business person in Africa, what it means to be a professional there, where there might not be the same paper trail. That's kind of where you started.
Exactly. And that started naturally, right? It was just like people come in and that was like the origin of everything that Agora has built today. But now we have like candidates and people from different part of the world, but the core place where we started was like African founders and builders and folks within the African tech ecosystem.
So what was that first iteration of Agora? So you're obviously helping people individually. You're seeing that there's a problem. You want to bring technology into the fold. How did you launch? What was Agora when you first launched it?
So interesting. The first, in a couple of months now, we're launching the next iteration of Agora, which is like a real-time trackable interaction between like attorneys and candidates, and the technology sits in between with all the support structure, paperwork, documentation, case management and legal and all of that. So you got humans, AI, and technology in between, while we have attorneys and the candidates on the other side. But the first iteration for us was we bought an off-the-shelf project management tool, customized it, and we started handling every case as a project. So within this project, we then have the attorneys who are like part of the project management team, and then the case managers, and then the client on the other side. But the goal for us was first to ensure that every paper trail is recorded, right? Every documentation from the client. So the client doesn't have to wake up every day and say, oh, have I sent that evidence? Which evidence have I sent? What is left for me to send? They see all the tasks and they see which one they've completed and which one they are yet to complete. And that was the approach that we used in the beginning, just using the solution to sort of test the market and validate that there's an opportunity here as big as that is what's really chasing. And remember that I've done this twice. Like I've won once, I've failed again. And so I'm like, you know what, we're just going to take it really slowly. So today, we're doing really good numbers with this, with the people we work with, in terms both the attorneys and the clients. And we've stayed bootstrapped till date. The goal is, we're not going to raise money for a very long time. We will stay cash flow positive. We will build a business that is built to last, right? That will probably go slowly, but will deliver value to all the stakeholders, and most importantly, will be positive. And today, that's how we've run today.
So tell me, what is Agora today? If I go to agoravisa.com, which is, I know that's the website, and obviously there are many people who are interested in EB-1s and O-1s and EB-2 NIWs. What are you providing today, right? What is the service that people can be excited about?
The first thing is an AI-driven evaluation. a lot of people, the first thing they want to know is if how do I know if I'm qualified? I need to talk to a lawyer. What we've done is built a technology that even lets you do like a self evaluation that can sort of ask you a lot of questions about yourself and say, hey, we think you might be qualified for an EB-1 based on your responses. And then the system then say, oh, you might want to book a call to then speak with a professional, as against you going all over the place to find this information. And now when that is done, the Agora team speaks with you. You then have like a one-on-one evaluation of your profile with one of the independent attorneys in place while that is going on. And then once it has been established that you should be a good candidate for this visa, then you are signed on. And the moment you're signed on, you got two things, right? You got a platform that gives you like step-by-step what to upload, what is needed, what kind of evidence is needed, and all of that. Then you've got an attorney within the platform. That's your independent attorney that's going to be working with you. And then you have your case manager whose job is to every day look at your profile or look at what you're putting on and say, okay, this is good to go, this is good to go, this is good to go, or this letter needs some edits. You need to go back to this person that wrote this letter for you. If you've really achieved this, then they should be able to mention it, except if you've not achieved it. You could bring some media publications about yourself, and the team looks at it and say, oh, this is not a major media publication, take it out, right? So those kind of like hand-holding process of working with you through that process, while the attorney is also, on the other side, getting the documentation and just making sure that there's no email exchanges sending hundreds of thousands of documents all over the place, right? That's where Agora is. So we're a platform sitting between the attorneys within our network and the people petitioning, just to make sure that first we make it easy for people to put the documentation together, make it easy for them to track where they are, track their cases, and finally increase the chances of getting an approval legally.
And so when you are thinking about your target client, or like who is the client? Is it the applicant who is paying for the service and then the attorney on the backside? Okay.
So for us, the applicants who is paying for the services are clients, but on the other side, the attorneys are service providers and partners.
Okay. And do you have, is it like a preferred list of attorneys that you work with? Are you open to other attorneys?
We do have a preferred list of attorneys we work with, but we're always getting new attorneys every now and then. So any attorney that want to work with us, definitely go on the website. They can find a place to say, at least as a they can easily enlist and become an attorney after we've reviewed the person and have a call and all of that. So it's not like attorneys can just get an account and start providing services.
Gotcha.
We do a lot of like post-application vetting for attorneys would work with. Same way the candidates are vetted before, an attorney would ever work with them.
Got it. Oh, that's great. So basically, these are attorneys that are obviously focused on EB-1s, O-1s, EB-2 NIWs. And so you partner with them, and then you can connect candidates with them.
Absolutely.
You mentioned something about education, right? And I'm just thinking, this whole idea started because you saw that there was sort of a gap, right? Attorneys didn't have the context that you felt they needed to help some of these potential candidates. So do you guys do anything from an education standpoint? Do you provide any, what do you do there?
There's a segment of Agora we call Agora Insights, and we put a lot of learning out there, right? A lot of information, like what should you be looking at? How do you know that you are even qualified? What's the signal? What's your nexus? Which criteria should you be focusing on? Just putting up all the information that is necessary. We're starting a community in a couple of weeks where people who intend to sort of apply for these visas can actually join and get education on what the US government is looking for, why you think you might be qualified, why you shouldn't. Because we realize that a lot of people will come through the door with so much energy believing that they are qualified, and you're like, you know what, you're not qualified. And they're like, no, I think I'm qualified. No, you're not qualified. And when the attorneys tell them, oh, they're not qualified, they feel a lot disappointed. They feel like, oh, I've achieved a lot, I've done a lot, I got this award, I got these media publications, but those things don't even check the box, right? So we're doing all of that education. I think the education part and just making available information for people who want to find out is one big part of our business.
Yeah, that's really important.
Even though this part doesn't bring the revenue, right? It sort of gets people to really understand where they are to help them make decisions.
But it makes sense. I mean, first of all, it's the initial problem that you wanted to solve. That's number one. Number two, if your clients and customers are the individual applicants, you're bringing them in by educating them, by building trust, and sort of bringing them into the ecosystem. And for me and for this show, most of my network tends to be immigration lawyers and other professionals. And so for them, are there opportunities for other lawyers, maybe a solo, maybe somebody else who wants to potentially grow their business or provide more services? Can they join, or can they apply?
Oh, yes. So solo lawyers who work in the employment-based space and the O-1 space, we don't work in the family-based or other type of visa space, right? But the E1s, the E2s, the EB visas, the O-1 visas, the Ls, if there are solo attorneys, who are the kind of attorneys we work with today anyway, who are looking to work with other global talents that are looking to move to the United States under these various programs, we're super open to working with those folks. 2, 3, 4, 5 clients a month definitely would be great for their firms. Qualified clients actually would be good for their firms as well.
And the way that would work is those firms have a G28. I mean, they're representing the client, and so you for them, you're basically you're an opportunity for them to get more cases, and for the client, for the applicant, you are an opportunity for them to learn and get connected to experienced attorneys.
Exactly, and for the attorneys, it's also like an opportunity for them to get more qualified cases, because the challenge that a lot of attorneys have is that for every 10 people who get on the call to find out if you might want to work with me, you would expect that more than 50% of those guys are not qualified, right? But if we ever send anyone to you after they've gone through like our programs, within our network, that person has actually gone through the filter to see that they're sort of close to being qualified, the kind of person that the attorneys are looking to work with.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Where, from the perspective of, the future, I know you're launching kind of an update in the next couple of months. What do you see for the future of Agora, right? Like, for people to follow you and to be excited, what's on your vision board for the next maybe year, 2, 3 for the company?
A lot of people have spoken to us about, why don't you lean so much towards artificial intelligence solutions, right? We're going to have a bit of AI within our system, but we strongly believe that because attorneys are humans and the beneficiaries are human, right? We minimize the use of artificial intelligence to a very large extent. That being said, we will over time. Give me 1 second. This flu is like, Olu'yomi, I'm not on your side today.
No worries. I'll take it on it. Again, it's winter time here in New York. Actually, I will note that we had a couple of great comments. So we had Carl Alphonse saying, wow, to 141st episode. And Carl, I totally agree with you. I don't know where the time went and how I got to episode 141, but so grateful for it. So thank you for the comment. Marianne says, celebrating 8 a.m. Docket Wise, which is a sponsor of the show. And Marianne is always for the people, the industry. What we do here at the show is for the people. We had a few folks on YouTube saying hi, and some folks on YouTube just commenting. So I really appreciate folks tuning into this episode. The one thing that I'll note, as I'm thinking about, our industry is on the one hand going through a consolidation. I know that's not really the topic of this podcast episode, but there is a lot of buying and selling happening. There's a lot of consolidation happening in our space where small and mid-sized firms are sort of joining forces or maybe getting acquired. There are alternative business structure firms that are based out in Arizona that are acquiring practices and growing. And so there's a lot of consolidation of the immigration space, and many solos are thinking, okay, I'm done. I'm done for. I'm not going to be able to compete with the large firms, or I'm not going to be able to compete with these, venture-backed immigration law firms. And I think while that's partly true, there is a lot of opportunity, and I think there will always be for clients who don't want to work with a law firm, a big one. There are always going to be clients that want to work specifically with a solo practitioner or a very small firm because they want to be one of a few clients, and they'll pay extra. They usually pay, more money because that's a white glove service. But the idea is they're going to be calling you, they're emailing you any time of day. They really want to feel like you are their personal immigration attorney. You're not just a big entity. And so there is always going to be place for both sides. So I actually love what you're saying about minimizing the use of AI, because there are some clients that won't want to work with a lot of AI. They want to hear the human being give their interpretation, spend their time thinking, et cetera, and researching. So I love what you're saying, and I appreciate you not just automatically giving into the hype and saying, look, there's space for AI. We use it a little bit, but I'm going to take a beat and kind of really do what I think is right rather than what the market is dictating.
It's asking for.
So, by the way, Carl asked here in a comment, how do I get in touch with Olu'yomi? We'll answer that question, but what do you, just while people are watching, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Olu'yomi Ojo on LinkedIn, Olu'yomi@agoravisa.com. Carl, I'm gonna also ensure I follow you now so that we can connect after.
Perfect. This is why I do the show, right? We build relationships in the immigration space. Okay, so I know we're both working on something in the immigration tech space, and there's AI use of it to some extent. Sometimes, actually, my platform doesn't use AI at all. We've thought about it. There are a few little opportunities, but same thing. We didn't want to just give into the hype for no specific reason. So Olu'yomi, I want to ask you, kind of as we are ending this conversation here, I love to ask guests towards the end, what you're still in the beginning stages of this business, but you have a lot of experience building businesses, right? Some have been very successful, some have pivoted and sort of closed. I don't want to call them a failure, but they've closed. What's the advice that you are listening to right now? What's the advice that you are taking right now at the current stage of Agora Visa that is being helpful for you in the moment?
The most important thing for us in terms of lesson is to care a lot. And it sounds very simplistic, say, give a lot of damn, but that's very important to us. Care a lot about the clients that you work for. Care a lot about the attorneys that are within the system working for these clients. Care a lot about the people within your own organization that's working on all of this, building the technology, building the infrastructure, the case managers, and all of that. And I think that's going to really, really influence how successful we get and the kind of solutions we build, because it starts with how do I make the life of somebody who is applying for these visas better? How do I make sure that they are within the right framework in terms of the attorneys they're working with? I've seen people who would say, can you have Agora just petition these things without an attorney? And we're like, no, there's nobody that's going to work within the Agora system without having an attorney that is a G28 and have actual attorney representations for them. And we are not, we say it upfront that, we're not legal practitioner. We're first a technology company and a business process company. So just having those truthful conversations upfront, and most importantly, caring a lot about people. I love to step back and step away from technology and just look at the people's side of business, right? Humans will always buy from humans. Humans will always pay humans. People will always need these services. So it starts with people and then always walk back to people.
I love that. And I think that resonates in the immigration space so strongly, because I think every immigration attorney would agree and say that they're in it because they care. I think on the technology side, we're also in it because we care.
Absolutely.
So I love that. So you mentioned that the best place to find you is on LinkedIn, Olu'yomi Ojo, your web, Olu'yomi@agoravisa.com, and the website, of course, is agoravisa.com to check out the company.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on, especially because I know you've got a little cold going, and I'm not feeling 100%. But listen, we're doing it for the people, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time out and mustering up a little energy, having a little extra tea for this conversation.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. I definitely recommend people connect with you on LinkedIn, reach out to you, and I wish you the best, man. I have, you're a fourth-time founder, I guess. So I'm excited to follow you and to see what decisions you make and what direction you take the business in. So wishing you the best of luck.
Thank you, Roman, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Well, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you for tuning in. There have been it was a lot of really great comments here. I want to say thank you again to the main sponsor of the show, DocketWise, now called 8 a.m. DocketWise. DocketWise, for those who are immigration practitioners, is an end-to-end immigration case management platform that provides best-in-class immigration forms, customizable questionnaires, a ton of industry-leading integrations with different companies and services within your tech stack, great customer service. If you're an immigration law firm and you're not already using DocketWise, or you're using something else, a lot of firms also use DocketWise just for forms and then stay with other platforms for broader case management. So something for you to look at. DocketWise has a lot of free resources as well on their website, including a blog, ebooks, a podcast, so much more. So please do check them out. I really appreciate them for supporting this show and making it possible. So visit DocketWise at 8am.com/DocketWise. And, of course, tell them that you heard about them from the GMI Rocket Show. So thanks again, everybody. Again, sorry for, I'm a little sniffly. Olu'yomi was a little bit sniffly, but hopefully this was an interesting conversation. And hope everyone's feeling good out there in the wintertime. Thanks, everyone. Have a happy Friday. Talk to you all next week, and stay safe. Peace out.